Hello, friends and fellow bibliophiles. Welcome back to Cat's Novel Adventures. In today's video, I am wrapping up my 5-star predictions reading project. I read these 3 books. Did they get 5 stars from me? Lindsey at Lindsey's Little Library and Sarah at Sarah's Nightstand invited me to participate in their 5-star predictions reading project for January and February. I was very excited that they asked me to participate. It was a lot of fun. This is part of their Booklist Thursday series, and they gave me a 1-word prompt, new, and I could interpret it any way I wanted to, and that's how I picked my 3 books, which I was very excited to finally get to all 3 of these books. I'm going to talk about the books in the order that I read them, and the first book that I read was Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell. The reason I chose this book was because Felix Blackwell is a new to me author. I also have been wanting to read this book for some time. I had such high hopes for it. It is about Felix and Faye. They are newly engaged and they are going to a cabin in the mountains of Colorado. It is cold, it's snowing, it's isolated. And then Faye starts hearing voices. Felix starts hearing voices. They're surrounding the cabin. They think someone is out there. The creepy thing about it is Faye is whispering back. And we know that she has a history of night terrors. Well, as time goes on, things are revealed, and it's pretty creepy, at least for the first half of the book. I will say that this book has the scariest prologue I think I have read in a very long time. It gave me goosebumps. I happened to be reading it on my own sprints one Wednesday evening, and I was a little hesitant about bringing my dogs out to go to the bathroom because it was dark and creepy. And even though I know that this creature and circumstances are not happening at my home in my backyard, I still was a little bit creeped out and didn't want to be out there any longer than I had to be. I will admit that there are scary moments here and there, but I really do think this would have worked much better as a short story. There's a part where a park ranger drives up and he comes to talk to Felix and Faye, and at that moment, that should have been where the story ended, because everything after that just got a little bit tedious and repetitive. It got to where I couldn't wait for the story to end. And talking about endings, it wasn't a very satisfying ending. I also will admit that I did not care for the character of Faye. She was kind of annoying at times, and I really didn't care about her parents as well. In fact, her parents could have been left out, but that's because they appeared in the second half of the story. There were also other elements that were included in the second half that never went anywhere, like a cellar and the number 5. So I just think overall, if he would have just stuck to the beginning parts of the story and the elements that were included in that first half, I think it would have been a 5-star read for me. Instead, it was a 3.5, and when I put it on Goodreads, it's going to round down to a 3. Now, with all of that being said, I would pick up another book by Felix Blackwell. I believe this is probably one of his first stories. I also would suggest, if anybody wants to pick this horror novel up, that you read it at nighttime, because it's a spooky atmosphere, and reading it at night just heightens that. I chose my second book, Flora and Ulysses, The Illuminated Adventures by Kate D. Camilla, because it is a NEWbery Award winner from 2014. I just absolutely love this book. In the words of Flora, holy bagumba. This is a tale about Flora, who happens to be a cynical person, and Ulysses, who happens to be a squirrel that was minding his business until he got sucked up by Flora's neighbor, Tootie Tickham's vacuum cleaner. And Flora comes to his rescue and she saves him. But because of his experience in the vacuum cleaner, he develops superpowers. He can fly through the air. He has all these different little moves he can do. Like he even takes on a cat and wins. He can type and he can create powerful poetry. So much fun. I love the friendship between Flora and Ulysses. I love the relationship between Flora and her neighbor Tootie, and she develops a friendship with William, which I think is all a result of being friends with Ulysses, because all of the experiences that she's having with this little squirrel helps her to be less cynical. She's less reserved. She's a little more open-hearted. And it's very exciting to see her transformation from the beginning of the novel until the end. There are so many wonderful scenes in here. I love how it's told in text and illustrations and comic book panels, because both Flora and her dad love to read comic books. And there's a character in there that she refers to time and again. I love also that her mom, who's a little self-absorbed, ends up coming around towards the end, and their relationship gets a little bit better between Flora and her mom. And when you find out the reason why William is in the picture, why he's visiting his great Aunt Tootie, it really does break your heart. So you're really happy that Flora is open to being friends with William, to give him what he needs during his trying times. The characters are quirky, but they're likable, and I really do love the storyline. There's a rich vocabulary, and this was just a lot of fun. I really wish there was a sequel to this book, because I'd love to know what else they got up to after the story ends. This was definitely a 5-star read for me. And the last book that I chose was Holly by Stephen King. And the reason I chose Holly is because it is the newest King release. It was released in September of 2023. And I am thrilled that I finally got to read it, because I have a soft spot for Holly Gibney. I have liked Holly ever since I met her in Mr. Mercedes, and I have enjoyed watching her character development throughout the trilogy, seen her again in The Outsider, and then again in the novella If It Bleeds. So it was so wonderful to see her get her own novel. And this novel did not disappoint. I really, really enjoyed it. It is a 5-star read for me. Holly is contacted by a frantic mom named Penny Doll, whose daughter Bonnie is missing. And it takes place during COVID, and Holly is really not sure if she's going to take the case or not. And even Pete, her partner, who is under the weather and is dealing with COVID himself, he's like, maybe you shouldn't do this. I mean, Holly just lost her mom to COVID, and they're supposed to be taking a break and kind of regrouping and having time for themselves. But there's something about Penny that really strikes a chord with Holly, and she decides that she's going to investigate. What I like about this novel is there are 2 timelines that eventually converge to where they meet in the middle. So you've got what's going on in the past and what's going on in the present. So everything that's going on with Holly and the investigation is present time. And what is happening in the past is how we're getting to know the elderly couple who are very sinister. They are serial killers. I'm not going to tell you what they're up to, because I don't want to spoil the fun if you haven't read Holly yet. They are upstanding community people, and they worked at the local university. They're both professors, one in biology, one in English. Very well respected, but they have a secret, and it's gruesome. I'll leave it at that. But I really enjoyed seeing Barbara and Jerome again. Both of them have their little things going. Barbara, though, is kind of put in the midst of everything that's happening with the elderly couple, as well as Holly's investigation. Even though she's kind of got her own little storyline going, she is actually in the path of danger. And so there's some dread there when it comes to Barbara. So many times that I'm like, oh, please, please, please don't let, just don't let anything happen to her, you know, because she's so close to the danger, and not realizing that she's that close. But the one thing that's good is that Barbara has been involved in some things already from the Bill Hodges trilogy, as well as in If It Bleeds. So I think she's a little more intuitive and could pick up on some vibes that the other characters who cross paths with the elderly couple don't quite experience those vibes until maybe after the fact, when it's a little bit too late. But King does a wonderful job of writing characters. Again, it's evident in Holly. The story, I think, is unique and fresh. I love how everything plays out. I enjoyed the tension building, and I was really kind of sad when it was coming to the end because I knew that my time with Holly was going to be over with. Well, that's a wrap on what I read for my 5-star predictions. I am really pleased that out of the 3 books, 2 of them happen to be 5 stars. What about you? Have you read any of the books that I read for this reading project? What did you end up rating them? Let me know in the comments below. And please be sure to check out Lindsey and Sarah's videos to find out if they had any 5-star reads. I have put both of their channel links in the description box below. And thanks again, Lindsey and Sarah, for inviting me to participate in this reading project. I really had a terrific time. As always, thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate you watching, and until our paths cross again, stay amazing and be adventurous.